right.
You
Here we
are
go.
live.
Just in case you didn't know. All righty.
Hey.
Hey, good morning.
Oh, you don't
Or
have
good-
any coffee
good
in your
late
mug.
morning.
Good
Nope.
grief, what's going on? Got
Well.
the old Stanley Steamer ready mug.
That's plenty. I've already
Cautious
had
pouring
enough.
over the keyboard.
I've had plenty today.
Not
already.
be cautious, I should say.
That was an interesting one. Cheers.
That was a good metally ting for a toolmaker machinist
Metally
and his wife.
ting. Metally ting. Oh, great. Instagram is working.
Metally ting.
Great. All right. I've got lots of shorts to share with you today. Fun
I have
stuff.
a long to share with you.
I know, but we can get to that later. Not right now.
Okay.
All right. Behave. We're actually
behave.
live today, so you have to extra behave.
I didn't say anything.
Mhm.
What did I say? Nothing.
Okay. Do you want to start out? Should we just dive into it? Okay.
Well, first of all, who are we?
John and Tara Bachland, and this is John and Tara podcast, sharing our 20-some years of marriage
20
experience.
plus.
Yes.
Yes.
And hopefully helping you in your marriage and relationship stuff. Yeah.
There's
Stuff.
Your face just shines. I am not wearing my Sheen foundation.
You're not wearing your makeup. Jane Iredale, I tell ya.
All right, I have some highlights. Some shading.
John, those are contours. It's contouring. Yes.
All right.
We could do you up next time, though. You want to get camera ready?
I don't think so.
No? Okay.
No.
Well, all righty. Let's look at
We're going to do
this.
shorts right away.
Well, this one's asking me, why not?
All right.
Now it's only showing me Chrome. Here,
Yeah.
I thought we were all ready.
Well, that's why I told you. You're using Chrome, so you can't go to Safari unless you have to select a window. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Now you can do it.
Yeah.
Told you, Tara. I told you, Tara.
You did. And this is the one, I think this would be great to start out with. You've talked before. No, I'm just going to play it. But you can't play the audio because it plays music.
That's fine, but go back to this. Go back to your screen and put us in there.
Oh, that's right. I made a brand new.
Hey.
Sorry, folks. I'm just.
There you go. That's
no,
perfect.
I'm covering. It's covering the video. Will be right here. There, it's perfect. Not quite. This one will work.
Okay.
All right. Ready? Set. Okay. There's not going to have audio because it has music, and then YouTube doesn't like that.
Okay.
So we'll have to. Okay. This is why you shouldn't scare your wife. Got it?
I don't.
All right. Hubby is fixing. Oh, she is totally and utterly freaked out.
He's acting like he got electrocuted.
Yes, and then she punches him in the nuts.
Oh.
Yep, and then she apologizes.
You got to be careful what you say.
I think I could say that. She said, "I meant to hit you in the leg." And they Alaska Elevated. That's who made this amazing video. I didn't think she would go nuts.
I have a commentary about this.
Yes.
I think that women shouldn't punch their husbands. How about that? How about we go with that?
Interesting.
Yeah. Is this a shock to you?
Well, because I was reading the comments and dang it. I was reading the comments. There you go. And it is interesting. There's some people that are just like, ha, 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 that is so funny. And there are some people like, hey, why are we laughing about violence? Why is this ever okay?
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Which it kind of surprised me. Could tell me, honestly, I think that surprises me because you'll show me pranks that guys play on their women, but it's mostly boyfriends. It's not necessarily
I'm showing you
wives.
things when the guys do things. So I'm showing you the Jerry Springer show, and I'm saying, aren't you thankful that you don't live this way? Because the guy greases up the kitchen floor, the gal comes in carrying groceries, and everything goes everywhere, and bottles break, and the guy laughs, and then the gal is really mad, and I'm like, no, that's not how you live your life. That's not what you do. But I guess to each their own. Different generations also.
So you're very much adamant about not condoning any kind of pranking either way, but it's a lot of times as guys doing it to girls, because guys do it to each other. That's one of the things I saw in the comments too. Like, this is kind of a guy thing. Why is he doing it to his wife? And women do react very differently, you know, to that sort of thing. Like, how do you think a guy would act if his buddy was doing that?
Can you mirror it?
I can.
I don't like it.
Okay. But so
you shouldn't have to stop it.
Go ahead and answer my question while I.
Why shouldn't guys do that?
No, how would a guy react if that was a guy doing it to his guy
Hey,
friend?
we're on the right sides now.
Yeah.
How would a guy react?
Yeah. If you did that with one of your guy buddies, how would a guy react to that situation if they played a prank like that?
Well, the guy would kick the ladder out from under you, because if he thought you were getting electrocuted, when you actually you're not going to get electrocuted in modern homes on a 110 circuit. It'll be probably a 10 amp breaker. It'll be a 1 amp, 10 amp breaker, and it will be 110 volts, and that will be for multiple lighting fixtures or multiple plugins.
Mm-hmm.
And there's probably one of these great CGFI or whatever they call them, CFIG.
Ground fault.
Yeah, GFIs.
GFIs.
Yeah, GFIs. And, you know, it'll kick out.
Yep.
And the breaker would probably kick out potentially. But if you were standing on a ladder, the guy would kick the ladder out because he wouldn't want you to stay stuck to it. Because if you grabbed him and touched his skin, you could potentially be getting electrocuted also. So
you think in that split second, most guys would know
they just kick the ladder.
That's why I got to do that.
Well, I'm not saying most guys would know, but your general.
I know. I generalize
real
all the
man would
time,
know.
you know, and I'm just like every guy all the time, everywhere. So
that's me.
But when I asked that question, it just occurred to me, like, that's not a guy like prank to a guy. The guy would do it to another guy is the type of prank that
the pranks you see guys do to each other involve like dump trucks and bobcats and shovels and
bicycles, a lot of bicycle ones.
Chainsaws.
Yeah. 4-wheelers.
Motorcycles. You see a lot of guys pranking people online now. They'll take 2 wrenches and they'll bang them together when the guy starts up his motorcycle.
Yeah.
So it sounds like a lifter knocking.
Oh.
And then as they go, they rev it. They go faster and then slower. They keep tempo.
Okay.
And then the guy's
that
like,
one's not so bad.
I just put this engine back together. Oh my God.
Okay. Well, that one's not so bad. There are definitely worse pranks.
No, that's worse.
So
that's terrible to make a guy think that his engine is being destroyed right in front of his eyes.
Well, you could turn it off.
That's worse than cutting your finger off.
Okay. This is the exact point of this podcast, because it's like men, women, like such a different perspective, right? What are you doing?
I don't know what it is that keeps changing our light. The lighting keeps shifting.
It's us going back and forth. It's adjusting. See, now go forward. See?
Oh, it wants my beautiful face.
I keep telling you, you're like, why do we trying to go forward? Okay. So there's just a massive difference between guys and gals, as you say. And so this is what has just like opened my eyes to like, okay, this is why men and women have such problems, is because we just innately see things so differently.
No.
So going back to that video,
no, it's
like,
not a problem because we see things differently. It's a problem because people don't like to work with each other, and people don't like to compromise.
Well, or communicate.
Because I've worked with people who are extremely, vastly different from me, and it hasn't been a problem.
That's true. That's true. So going back to the video about this husband playing this prank on his wife, obviously setting it up to get an awesome short or an Instagram reel, which he did. Success. Good job. But like when I'm seeing that, I'm seeing her go through horror and then like, oh my gosh. And then just reaction. Like she punches him. She's like, I tried to punch you in the leg, and then punches him in the nuts. He falls down. She's like, oh, I'm so sorry. I just sound really Minnesota. Oh, yeah. But like, I've honestly had those reactions where like the first when you're afraid that you think of hitting for some reason. And I think not justify, I'm just like talking about it. This is why we're doing these, right? Is like she was betrayed in a way by her husband in that moment. He made her think that he was potentially dying, right? And so it's kind of like,
Yeah,
F you,
I
you
guess.
know, like you just made me think that I was going to go to plan your funeral.
I don't have a
right?
problem with her punching him. I don't even have a problem with her punching him in the balls. You know,
Yeah.
under duress, you can't really fault people for their in the moment reactions, especially if they're just an average person. You know,
She hasn't trained. She hasn't been an electrician for 10 years.
There are people that train for high stress situations and in their jobs or in life and that type of thing. And so, you know, you're I'm going to say it out loud. Your average housewife is not ready for something like that.
Right. That situation.
So, and that's okay. I mean, I don't think people should prank each other in their homes. Like, I mean, how much time do you got on your hands to be setting up a prank? Or maybe he's just changing a light bulb or the fixture and he thought, well, I'm going to change the fixture and then I'm going to have her be like, hey, honey, can you grab me that screwdriver? And then,
yeah, you know. I think she had a screwdriver in her hand.
Okay, yeah. Well, that's the only thing you need when you change an outlet. So, you don't need a hammer or a Sawzall. So
then we know she's really.
Can you hand me the table saw? So no, yeah. I'm against. You know, I mean, if you wanted to tease me about something, that's fine. But I'm against like true pranks. You know, it's America's Funniest Videos probably got a lot of people started on that kind of stuff. It's that generation that grew up with that you see pranking their girlfriends and that kind of thing. I like surprise videos online. If I'm watching some videos, I like animals because they're generally just spontaneously responding to whatever the situation is. Mm-hmm. And I also like if somebody's, you know, like the dad videos where they save the kids, right?
Yeah.
The kid's falling and I'll tell you a story. So my son was probably 3 years old, and my parents, you know, they have a stairway from one floor to the next, and it's a straight stairway. So it's a full story stair. And, you know, sometimes they go down at an angle and then curl back or whatever, go back 180,
there is a
or
landing
90
at
degrees.
The very bottom, but it's pretty steep.
What's the floor? There's no landing at the bottom. It's the floor. No. Okay. And so my son was standing at the stairway and he fell backwards. He went to step and stepped off the stair and fell backwards. Mm-hmm. And their couch is about 9 feet away from the stairs. And I was laying on the couch and I happened to be looking at him and I caught him on like the 4th stair. So mm-hmm. that was a dad rescue, right? Mm-hmm. And you can't even stop yourself. You know, it was instantaneous motion reaction. And I ran straight down the stairs. And as I reached to grab him, I grabbed him by one of his arms close to his shoulder. I grabbed the railing at the same time. So my hands went out and grabbed so that I wouldn't fall because I was leaning down the stairs mm-hmm. as I went to reach and grab. I'm standing up and I leaned down and I caught him. Yeah. And everybody in the room, it was probably a Christmas or something. Everybody was like, oh my God. You know, everyone was just like, you know, and they just were watching it as I was in motion to save him, so he didn't get hurt.
Yeah.
You know, I think he went over backwards once, and he was on his second tumble.
Yeah, I think the dad's reactions are pretty amazing.
Oh, they're
just very, very natural.
Yeah, everybody should look that up. They look up dad reactions, dad saves child, you know, that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. You know, or
like the ones they're in a baseball stadium and the baseball is coming right at their head, and they just grab it.
The best one is, I forget his name, but the baseball player that is being interviewed by the lady.
Oh yeah.
And so he's standing just like this and they're talking and the baseball is coming like this.
He hears a crack.
And it's going right at her head. And he reaches and as he turns, he grabs the ball. He knew where it was in space. And then he shakes his hand as he puts it in his other hand. Then he throws it back at the guys and he's like, hey, watch it.
Yeah. Well, they were really far away. They were in the outfield.
Yeah.
They weren't even near the infield.
Yeah, it was a hard hit too.
Holy moly. Yeah, she was really lucky. She would have had some
drain
Bramage
Bramage.
from that one. For sure. Okay.
You can tell we've been married for a while.
All right. So
This episode is not sponsored by Echo Go, but this
Yeah.
is the hydrogen water that we use.
and not sponsored by
No, wait.
oh, you're
we
not-
don't do two commercials at once.
I was ready to do mine. Okay, go.
Marketing 101, Tara.
Okay, sorry. I'll
Keep
take
the audience focused on the product.
I'll take a sip
Okay.
of my coffee.
You should. Okay,
Keep going.
we'll start over.
All right.
Sip off your coffee. There you go.
Mm.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Mm.
Now, you, as I'm talking, you
Oh, I know what you're gonna
without
say.
saying anything, you ooh and ah. You just
for it.
look astonished. Okay.
Okay, stop telling me what to do. You're gonna look like
So,
a bossy husband.
You are definitely not a Ukrainian woman. Inside humor.
Yeah.
So this episode is
Hmm.
not sponsored by Echo Go, but this is the hydrogen water that we use. Oh, you're gonna you're so bad
I
at
thought
it.
that's what you want
I'm
me to
so
do.
much better at it. You look pretty. I'll be graceful.
Okay. Now I'm getting hot.
You're like,
Okay,
whoa.
keep going.
And we have a bikini showing up in this commercial too. So I'm going to open this. Whoa. That was the pop of hydrogen projection. I can't do the
Did I make
commercial
you
either.
speechless?
Yeah.
Mm,
Oh,
But
I feel empowered.
but it tastes more lively.
I feel incredible. Yeah, you could actually use this water to clean stuff with too. It's actually more activated in that sense.
Clean your mouth? Is that what you're trying to
She's
do?
washing my mouth out. So this is the Echo Go, and this is a really good product. We love it. It is.
Awesome.
We're
John?
not sponsored by Echo Go.
John got me my very own blue one, probably because they didn't have pink or purple or teal.
Probably because you were leaving a ton of lipstick on the edge of mine.
No, I wouldn't do that.
Yeah,
no,
you
I
did.
totally wouldn't.
It was cleaning the.
Okay, one
It
time
was
maybe.
cleaning
then
the surplus lipstick off your clean lips.
Oh, speaking of lipstick,
Here we go.
Jane Iredale, not officially a sponsor yet, but
Mm.
John was even envious of my skin tone, and that's not my hair, not for hair.
I'm being a
So-
monkey
Oh, why?
because I'm a guy.
Beautiful. The only foundation that will work on my skin. There you go. Skincare, makeup,
Not sponsored by Jane Iredale.
not yet.
Come on, Jane.
But come on, Jane.
Come on.
All right, so this is a relationship podcast. It's also about business. We've been married and in business together over 20 years. And so I say that we've had a successful marriage. You know, people want to hear like you've had a happy and great and amazing marriage, and we've had many happy, great, and amazing moments. But the reality is
3.
for success, why I say successful is because, you know, there's a lot of this in life and even in relationship. And it's learning to navigate those ups and downs because even the ups can be stressful at times too.
And it's good to just be oblivious every now and then.
Yeah, sometimes. Yep. So I found some of these really fun videos, really great videos, and I thought it'd be fun to do some reactions. So I'm going to set us up here again. And because there are also people who are dating, right? Getting ready. And I'm going to switch our camera view. There are people who are, you know, desiring that relationship, right? But are trying to get there, right? And
Why don't we just listen to it?
well, I'm not
Yeah, I know you're a woman.
okay. Ready?
Guy's like, let's go.
All right. So I got to go this way and that way. So
for the girls who are listening. If a man is put off by the fact that you say no, you should get the hell away from him as fast as you possibly can because he doesn't care in the least for you. He doesn't find you interesting.
There you go. Now
Sorry,
go
guys.
on.
The number one trait of a good woman is she's naturally grateful. She's a grateful person, not just to you, just in general, in life. She's a grateful person. Where men struggle, and this is where a lot of men get it wrong, is they attach to ungrateful women and entitled women. And the reason they attach to that is because there's an ego boost in trying to get the ungrateful woman to appreciate what you've done because you feel like you've actually earned something. It's an ego boost. Like if a woman is naturally grateful, you don't have to do a lot to impress her. But an ungrateful, entitled woman, you have to do more. So men end up investing more in the entitled woman because she takes more for her to crack a smile. So they end up investing in the wrong women all the time. But in a woman that is naturally grateful, what will happen is that sense of appreciation will always be there. The number one trait of a
So, John, what do you think of that? I'm really setting this one up for you. So,
Well,
there you go.
she could be correct. I think,
She could be correct.
yeah, there's so much. So we live in a society now that has been psychoanalyzing for what, about 85 years now. And I mean, like realistically in society, like there's psychologists in the schools, there's psychologists in businesses, or psychiatrists or whoever, there's all these people that are prepped and ready to shrink your brain, right? They're going to, that's why they call them shrinks, right? I don't know. I think guys, first of all, they go for what they're attracted to, and that's when they're young. And then later in life, after they've been through the crucible of relationships, they go for women that I think this is why you see so many people cheating, because people generally went towards what they were attracted to. And then after that excitement dies down, they go for what fulfills them. And that's how me and you met. We've said in a past podcast, I've said many times, I was attracted to your work ethic. That's what got you noticed. Another sexy woman wasn't going to be noticed by me because, beauty is, as they say, skin deep, right? So, if somebody looks nice and takes care of themselves, you can look at it one of two ways. You can say they seriously care about themselves. Nowadays, they would start to say that person is very narcissistic, right? That
if they care too much about themselves.
Well, that they're overly, trying to portray an image to society, right? And if you see a woman that is perfect in every way, as far as what you can see, I personally, and most of the guys I know, would think that woman is extremely opportunistic and she's looking for something to come her way instead of, I'll just leave it at that. And she's looking for opportunity. Now, I don't mean that women need to walk around and be all slouchy and hunched and messy hair and overweight and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I think, if you get into these psychological podcasts, you're going to get a bunch of gobbledygook, and you're going to get, after a while, you're getting mixed messages. And that's what it is. If you listen to an automotive podcast, you're going to learn everything about a car that you never needed to know. If you listen to a psychiatrist or psychologist, you're going to learn everything about a human being that you never needed to know, right?
I think what she's saying, I've been listening. So Sadia Khan is a psychologist. She comes from an education background, also teaching psychology. And she's well known in the dating sphere in helping people to overcome or acknowledge.
I wouldn't qualify it that way. She came onto the scene. She has been doing that kind of work, but I wouldn't qualify her as an authority.
I say she's known as.
Right.
So
you said she's well known.
Yeah, and she's
but
known,
we don't know that.
Well, just going by the number of followers that.
Well, that's because she's pretty.
Okay, well, I'm just
YouTube is 90%, 80 to 90% men.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. She's got a significant Instagram following, and I've been listening to her recently because I think she provides an interesting, more worldly perspective. And what I mean worldly is that she was born in London and maybe born in Pakistan, but lived her life in London but now lives in Dubai. And has done a lot of consulting within Dubai, which is very multicultural. Or people live there from around the world. And so I think her perspective is very unique in that sense. So she's seeing people from various cultures and perspectives from around the world. And specifically on this topic, however, I think what she is doing is she is helping people to identify the habits and the traits that perhaps are giving them problems, as far as maybe it's easy for them to meet someone but then keep a good relationship, right? Or maybe it is the initial meeting and how they're interacting, because you don't know what you don't know, right? And so to bring up the topic of gratitude, this could be a guy going like, oh, that's why I always gravitate towards difficult women. I have to overcome something. I have to meet the challenge of making them smile. And so I do think that there's a role for this psychology, right? And that is a complement to what we're trying to do, which is like, here's our experience. You know, this is what we've been through in life, right? This is what we see around us, and not, which is a complement to, here's how the psychologist has seen people behave. These are the patterns that typically show up. This is when I have a client that is, maybe they overperform, maybe not even overperform, they're a performer in life. They naturally choose a challenge, but they're like, I'm tired of these challenging women. I want someone who, you know, just is like happy with who I am and what I provide and what I do.
Well,
and
okay.
that could be the same for a woman and a man.
So you said this is why we're doing what we're doing. We are on here talking as a successful married couple.
Mm-hmm.
And what I hear, like, I love listening to, say, Jordan Peterson. He's been married for
30 some years,
longer than we have. Not much longer, but longer. Mm-hmm. And he's in a successful marriage, and he'll talk about ups and downs and things like you were just mentioning a little bit ago. Mm-hmm. But when I hear Sadia talk, I'm assuming she's single because I don't hear her talk.
She's newly married, but she's been in a committed relationship for a good amount of the time that she was doing these videos.
Okay, so when I first started seeing her online, she was in a relationship but not married.
Right.
And so she talks a lot about her clients,
mm-hmm.
and her clients are single, and the mistakes the guys are making. And I'm going to be quite honest. You don't know the mistakes you're making until you've been doing something for quite a while. If you go out with 8 different women, it's very difficult. Let's say you go on 4 dates with a woman, and you do that with 8 different women. So you go on 4 dates with 8 different women. And how are you going to know what the mistakes are? How are you going to know what the problems are if you don't continue the relationship? If you said something to that woman and she got mad about what you said, and then she said, I'm going to leave because I don't agree with you, that is actually not a mistake. Like, you should say things that you feel and believe, not on purpose to piss someone off. I don't think on the first 4 dates you should go through your political beliefs, your religious beliefs, your all these things. I think you should get to know a person. You know, what do you like to do? Hey, let's go for a walk in the park. Oh, you like biking? Let's go on a bike ride. Let's, instead of, I'm a independent Democrat, Republican, Libertarian, and I'm a Christian, Sikh, Hindu, and I'm a, and you're like trying to qualify all this stuff. I realize there are people that'll only go out with Christians, or there are people that will only go out with Muslims or whatever, right? The Sikh culture, I'm pretty sure they only date within their culture, right? And so it's really strange to me, because I didn't do that with you. We knew each other for 6 months before we dated, and I don't think you ever heard me say anything of my political leanings or my religious beliefs or anything like that. Right?
No, but I think you can infer, especially when you're observing a person for 6 months, you can infer. You were teaching, and so I'm sure I heard your commentary. At that time, it probably wasn't as conscious, but I was observing you, like you said before too. And at that time, I was observing you with your son.
Think about this. I was teaching a class to the general public. I was a martial arts instructor, and I was teaching to the general public. when you do that, nowadays people will stand up and they'll espouse their beliefs and that type of stuff. But you didn't do that back then. You were funny. You might have made some jokes. I never talked about the president. I never talked about Congress. I never talked about the financial system. I never talked about the church or the lack of church or the Catholic priesthood. I never, there's like 40 billion other things to talk about than all this centrally focused crap that they got the whole society talking about now. I did not do that. And my students were happy to come to my class. I heard arguments in the room from other people, and little discussions and stuff, but I just say, hey, you guys need to be kicking. Stop talking. If you can talk, you're not working hard enough. You remember that, right?
Yeah.
And if anybody complained about anything, we'd say, whiners have to leave, or you got to leave your problems at the door. So that was my mentality. Okay.
There's life and death.
Men who desire and focus on keeping the peace at the expense of keeping the respect are always going to lose that woman. What I'm suggesting is you let it be known that this behavior is something you're uncomfortable with, and you let it be known. And now, if she continues to break that boundary after you've communicated it again and again and again, you don't keep repeating yourself. You remove yourself. Instead of repeating yourself and like holding her by the throat and trying to get her to understand and respect you, you simply respect yourself and you leave. And if she sees that you can't respect yourself enough and you can't leave her, you've already lost her. She knows you're not going anywhere. Men who desire and focus on
let the first part of it play.
keeping the peace at the expense of keeping the respect are always going to lose that woman. What I'm saying.
See,
So
that's like a subtle nuance, right? That men who are keeping the peace at basically the chagrin of everything else, right? Not having a determined, here's the foundation, here's how we do this in this house, here's how, I got to go to work, so we got to end this conversation, we got to pick it up later, that kind of thing. Yeah, you do lose respect, but that's so subtle. I mean,
what's so subtle?
The whole concept is subtle, right? I mean, it
is, yeah.
But
I think it starts with parenting.
But here's no. We can't. She's talking about relationships and dating.
I know.
We can't go right to parenting.
Well, keep going, and I'll
parenting comes later.
No, how you were parented. Because if you had a parent that was like, no, quiet, please.
Hold on.
Quiet.
You're jumping over like 7 categories that are before that, right? Mm-hmm. So if you are talking with somebody and you're just a mushy man, you're just, I'll tell you what, in the first few months of dating, the guy is going to be mushy. He's going to let the woman. He's going to let her intrude and retreat and intrude and everybody's testing each other's boundaries the entire time you're dating. And then it goes like this. The boundaries start going like this. And then if maybe they are touching and moving together, and then maybe you gain that union, right? But I've seen and I've heard a lot of young men, even that I've talked to directly, they go out on a date and they sit down and they got a list. Here's how I do this. And I'm like, you're 19.
How do you know?
you actually don't do any of the stuff on your list because I know you. Mm-hmm. You can't show up with an encyclopedia of how the other person is supposed to behave around you. You need to find out how they behave, and then you need to take them at their behavior, right? Because they'll say, young men and young women will say anything to make the relationship gel, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
particularly in the beginning.
For sure. But that has to happen, right? That interplay.
You start learning your boundaries and your standards by doing that.
But here's what I teach guys. If I don't just say, lay the law down, this is how it is, blah, 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 because you don't know how it's going to be in 5 years, right? With you. So you listen to what she says, and then, I'm more of an infiltrator, right? Than an instigator. And a lot of young men think they have to instigate, right? I've got to be strong. I've got to be forceful. No, you don't. You do have to be quite pliable, because even in your pliability, you're going to find yourself in your pliability. If young men be forceful, they're all going to be seen as assholes. They're all going to be seen as, belligerent. And even if they are being in the flow of the relationship, they're still going to be seen that way because they're men. The testosterone and the aggression is going to come out in some way, right? So I would say, don't allow things that are going to, just like Jordan Peterson says, don't let your children do things that will make you dislike them. Don't allow your girlfriend, don't allow your girlfriend to do things that are going to make you dislike her. So what that means is, if something happens, you have to sit down, you have to take her hand, you have to tell her, I love you, I want to be in a relationship with you, but when you were making out with that guy at the club, I can't have that, right?
Yeah.
I can't live with that. So, and that's an extreme statement. Obviously, if you catch your woman making out with somebody at the club, you just walk out of the club, go home, and put all of her stuff on the driveway. And
But that's the
If you're
example.
living
You're
together.
not striving to keep the peace. You're not like, oh my gosh, she's going to come home and flip out and I better not do this. You're like, nope, this is a boundary and this is
boy.
how I handle that. But that's what she's talking about, keeping the peace. Let me talk for a minute here, please. So last episode, we talked about shit testing and about, in the red pill community, or the manosphere out there, they'll talk about, well, how do you know what a girl is like if you don't test her, right? And my argument was that, well, you go through life, right? Instead of creating a situation to test her, well, actually be in life and you'll find out, right?
Yeah.
Take the time. And so similarly here, it's like, okay, I can see what she's saying. And granted, we're watching shorts and we've had people comment on our shorts that are like, that's way out of context. So there's probably a whole bunch of story around this whole question.
No, I don't think we make it bigger than it is. I think we just talk about how it applies to us and what we think.
So I agree with what you're saying. What I think you're saying is, I think you're actually agreeing that yes, you don't acquiesce just to keep the peace, because then you're allowing behavior that you actually don't allow for yourself. And you use the word allow with a girlfriend, but really what you're talking about is having your own standards and your own boundaries. And that's actually very imperative. It's very important to know what your boundaries, standards, and values are. And then also be willing to say, you know what, that's not okay. That does not, like our talk about why I don't have guy friends and you don't have girlfriends in a relationship, because that's a boundary, that's a standard, and we value.
But what would
our
have happened
relationship.
if we were out on our second date and I said, no guys over and you can't have any guy friends?
Right. That would have been a bit much.
That wouldn't have worked.
Yeah.
I had to wait until it happened, right? Because I didn't think it was going to happen.
Or the conversation would come up somehow.
I totally didn't expect it to
Right.
happen.
But you did address it, right? You did bring up the conversation right after it happened. And I think that's what she's talking about. You didn't go, oh my gosh, this has not worked out well in the past with another woman that I had this conversation with. I'm just going to keep quiet because I don't want this relationship to go south. You chose to address the issue that was a value, a standard, and a boundary for you at the sake of potentially losing the peace between us.
Well, Sadia would do a lot better if she gave context instead of giving the concepts, right? Concepts are great, but they need context. So the concept is you need boundaries in your life. And if you want to stand for something, you have to stand. Otherwise, you're going to be washed away in the tide, right? And the tide is the other person and their emotions and their problems and that kind of thing, right? But you can't go with a list and be like, well, if you're going to date me,
Yeah.
I'm this way and here's what I do and here's what I do. I've told you about previous relationships before you, and I was a massive life adventure, and I was racing, and I was going to immersion courses, and I was traveling around and mostly driving everywhere when I traveled, and doing all the things I wanted to do. And some woman would find me intriguing and attractive and want to date me, and then we'd start dating. And
You would want to hook up to your hitch.
well, and then all of a sudden she's telling me I'm doing too much. I need to slow down. I
then
need
it
to
becomes
stop.
a problem.
I need to stop. I'm spending way too much money. You know, how much does that cost? You know,
Yeah,
and when I was young,
a lot.
I'm like, well, you know, before racing season, I'll spend $16,000 to $20,000. What? Oh my God. You know, and and that was with people that I wasn't even married to. You know, it's like, and I'd be like, well, these are my finances. This is my life. You know, if you want to go, you can, but you can't. When I would say things like, when we're at the track, you can't complain. You know, it's going to be hot. It's going to be muggy, you know, which means humid.
It's going to smell like fuel. It's going to smell like oil.
It's going to be
and
noisy.
It's going to be noisy. Yeah,
There's going to be a lot of
you're
people.
going to inhale dust.
Yep.
all the time.
Expect to be hit on about 4 or 5 times when you're not around me. You're going to be walking by other people's campers and trailers.
Generators.
And, running everywhere.
Yeah.
And
power
we're talking
washers.
hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands,
Yeah.
of thousands of people showing up, hundreds of people racing, and beer parties going, hey baby, come on over here, man. You know, it's, everything. You know.
Ah, those were the days.
Yeah, well, it is good. It is fun, you know, and you got to do your things. But I think if Sadia is talking about boundaries in relationships, because she's talking about people who are dating, she needs to say, find a situation in your relationship where you can express what you think a healthy boundary is. And that's what happened between you and me.
Yeah.
I came home, one of your friends was over, his buddy was with him. So I came home from work into my apartment with 2 guys were there, and you were there. And I knew one of them. The other one was his cousin. I didn't know him, but big deal. Right. And we were like, hey, you know, I was like, hey, Juan Carlos, you know, high five and all this stuff. And we all hung out for a while. And then when they left later in the evening, I had a talk with you, and I said, you can't have guys over when I'm not here. And if you're going to have guy friends, I can have hundreds of girls as friends, and I can have a whole party over here when you get home. You know, I could have 20 women in here. I could be playing music and serving hors d'oeuvres and, you know, popping Ritz crackers with cheese. Cheese whiz. And you were like, you didn't, at first you were a little miffed at me. You were like, what do you mean I can't have guy friends? And then when I gave guys, give the alternative side, right? So my side was, I said, if you want me to be having all these girlfriends when you come home and we're talking and laughing and they're giggling, and I can do that. And I don't think you had thought about it that you were like,
Right.
oh my goodness, no, that's not what I want. And you were like,
Totally.
oh, that's okay. I don't, because literally he was just a friend. And you were like, okay, I won't ask him over, you know?
Right.
So there has to be context, you know, and good examples, you know, in your relationship, not a bunch of hypotheticals, not a bunch of, you know, well, what if this scenario happened? Because then you're into scenario arguments, you know, and
Right.
it has to be real.
And that's why we share our stories.
Hey.
Okay, a funny one. Funny one. Oh, that I had to
Yeah,
choose a
you're
different
covering
one.
up. There you go. Is there no sound?
Well, usually they put music with them.
Oh,
Yeah. Oh, it says original audio.
no.
Oh. Sorry, guys. When you've had an argument and he calls you crazy, and now we will show him crazy.
Now that we have context for a situation, I'm going to have to talk with Tara about the clips she's choosing.
Well, I just thought, you know, it's fun to vary it up a little bit. Okay.
Let's do something else.
Something else.
No.
Oh, this one was really funny. These ones you sent. I don't know
No.
what those are.
No.
Okay. Well, you got to send me some too.
Do you have
So-
any ones from Rich? We should put him on our
Oh.
podcast with his image so he sees it.
Oh, I don't think this time.
Okay, we'll turn the sound out. Oh, go back to the biggest red flag. Let's see what Brian has to say on the whatever.
Oh, this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go-
okay.
No, go.
Yeah, but I got to share the screen.
Oh, you already unshared it.
I already
Okay.
unshared it, and that is
Do the bottom one.
we'll get this figured out and be smoother someday here. Which, not that one, not that one, not that one, not that one. It's the one I have selected, of course. Here we go.
Okay, now
Okay,
hit
folks,
play up in the corner.
on the other screen.
You okay?
Biggest red flag in a woman.
Oh, yeah. So externalizing. So an externalizer is somebody who's doesn't have an internal locus of control. So she gets angry. It's not because of anything that's going on inside of her mind. It's that you did this. So the way that they're going to regulate their own emotion is not by controlling themselves, but by trying to control everything around them. And if you're going to be around them, they're going to be trying to control you. So like, don't do that. We have to do this. And if you deviate from that, they get all out of sorts because they're in this like perpetual and completely futile quest to make external reality permanently exactly how they want it to be so that they can feel non-anxious or non-angry or whatever. And that's not possible.
What do you think is the biggest?
Stop sharing right there.
Stop sharing right there.
Right there.
Oh.
Now go back.
That one does it all in one shot.
Oh,
Okay,
okay.
figure this out, folks.
You want to hear what I have to say?
Yeah, go ahead. I will find a rich.
I'm really tired of beta males talking about how women should behave.
Oh yeah. So tell me more. Why do you think
Oh.
he's beta?
Well, like I said before, you know, that you need, so a woman needs a reason to don't click on any
I
of
won't,
them.
no.
Okay.
Well, I'll let you choose. From
Yeah, let's go back and talk about this one.
I just wanted to cue it up.
Let's not get ahead. Let's not make a calendar list, Tara. No itinerary.
All right.
No, man, that was just over the top for me because, you know, if you sit back and you watch people in a room, you cannot tell who is going to be your date, your soulmate, your wife, the love of your life. You can't tell that kind of stuff. You know, when I met you, I wasn't attracted to you. And
You crazy?
well, first of all, we met in a setting where I was the authority figure, right? And so I couldn't be attracted to my students. You, as a martial arts instructor, as a teacher, you can't be just having designs on all your students. You can't be, you know, and I was focused on running a business. I wasn't trying to get a date. I wasn't, you know, I was turning down actually lots of women that would come in because I was, you know, I was like, I'm in a relatively small town, you know, and I'm next to Minneapolis, but I'm in a suburb and I don't want to have a reputation. Okay. So here's what happened. I had 5 instructors that I was training to be instructors in my school. And the first conversation, and they're all guys. And the first conversation I would have with them is, if you date somebody, you marry her. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
There's no dating. There's no dating in here. This is not a dating club. This isn't a health club. This isn't a meat market. This is a martial arts school where we train, and we had very serious people coming in. You know, we trained a lot of law enforcement. We trained a lot of people that are like operators, you know, that are people out in the world doing things with the things they were learning. And so, you know, it wasn't like that. So when these guys sit down and they pontificate on behaviors of women, you know, it doesn't make, some of it could make sense if I could think of a situation that I've been in where I've seen that, right? But it doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, these guys are doing it for how they just ended up on our podcast. Our 60 plus people are going to see them.
70. We went over 70.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
It's
Bam.
wow. Nice.
Mm-hmm.
All right. 70 followers.
Mhm.
Come on, guys, subscribe. But I just get so frustrated with this,
Well, he's a psychologist as well, which I know you'll be thrilled
I don't
about.
care. I
Yeah.
don't care. A lot of these people that they interview about going to school to become a psychologist is because they had such a messed up family life. They're trying to figure themselves and their life out.
Well, I think what he's
And-
describing is a person who they say who has like ADD, ADHD, and they have
No,
to
let's not try and
control.
think for him. Let's just go off based on what he said.
Well, I'm going off of based what I'm interpreting and I'm processing, and this is what I process, okay? And people who have a lot going on in their brain, they say need to control their outer environment.
No, he said they're an externalizer. They're
Yes.
not going to shut themselves down. They're going to try and control their environment.
That's what I'm saying. So it's an expression of there's so much going on inside. They're insecure. They're thinking, you're going to do this, you're going to do that, instead of fixing themselves and going, wow, I feel really anxious. Wow, I'm really fearful about these things. They try to control everything in their environment. Now, that's his interpretation. That's his opinion of what is a major red flag, which I could see in someone's point of view.
Every
would
woman
be-
is a major red flag.
Okay.
I'm just going to say every woman.
Tell me
My
more.
mom, my grandma,
We're
every
walking red flags.
every
I'm wearing
woman
the wrong shirt.
is a major red flag.
Okay.
If she's with the wrong guy and if she hasn't found her place in life, right?
Okay.
And I'm not going to, I'll just qualify this. I could say the same thing about men, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to say that when a woman gets to a certain point, she is looking, just like a guy is looking to sow his seed, a woman at a certain point is looking to have that nest, right? That compartmentalized, I've got a man, I've got a home, I've got a child, or I'm going to have a child, or I'm,
It's like she's untethered. and-
she's a flag. You know how the flag has 2 points and it blows in the wind. It's like one of those points is gone, and it's this skinny little thing of fabric that's just whipping everywhere up and down, and it's just blowing in the wind everywhere.
Mhm.
And we're going, oh, look at that crazy flag. It doesn't, but you're right. It's not tethered. It's not held by its points where it can actually be displayed properly. And it really, it's like these podcasts are out there judging the world by the mental institution. It's like, I met a crazy woman last week. Let's talk about her for 3 hours. And it's like, I said, dude, you met a woman that was out of her element or in an environment or just had gone through something that was really crazy. And 6 guys hit on her before you walked in, and you said hi to her and she went, ugh, and she didn't. And yeah, she's externalizing her feelings, right? People do that.
Yeah.
If some guy walked through, let's say he went through the gauntlet of 7 men standing outside and every guy slapped him in the face, and then some guy grabbed him by the shoulder really hard in the bar and he turned around and hit that guy, you'd be like, oh, that guy is violent. But you don't know that he just got slapped by 7 gorillas outside, and now he's paranoid and he's reactive, right? And his nervous system is on fire. And
like that woman earlier who had a prank pulled on her by the husband. She was in it.
And she punched him in the balls accidentally.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
So I'm not trying to throw you under the bus with this,
do it.
but I think, we emphasized earlier
I will
using
lift the bus.
real life examples. So now you've been in relationships before, you were married before. Why weren't you able to tether those women?
They were in the wrong situation. I wasn't the right guy. I could name 101 things about each one of them and say that they had a problem, but I was not the right guy for them. And maybe it wasn't the right time in their life. Maybe it wasn't, maybe it was past issues. Maybe it was 100% me, because I'm not a tetherable guy. You are the only woman that's ever been able to tether me. You're the only one that has tamed the beast, that had tamed the wild lion, people watch this and laugh and be like, oh yeah, you look like a big bad lion, John. It's still, I still work on myself. I still work on myself to be calmer and to be thoughtful and to be not just reactionary, because my reactions, my instincts are very good. And it's very easy to then think that all of your decisions should be made quickly. All of your reactions are correct. And all of your, as a man, it's very easy to think that when things work out for you, you're like, oh, well, all I have to do is react and it'll be fine. And you don't realize, my reactions are like dumping a load of dirt on people, right? It's like something happens and I call in a load of dirt, boom, it dumps on that person. I go, look, ground, it's smooth. That's what I wanted. I wanted dirt right there. It's like, but my reactions, what I learned, and I'll explain how, I was shutting people down with my reactions. And it's not because my reactions were mean or bad. It's because I would have the answers, right? As an example of going into a meeting, at any corporation that I've been to, and I'm sitting in a room and there's 3-4 engineers, and you've been with me to those meetings, and they say, here's the problem. And generally in a polite meeting, everybody, you go around the room, everybody says their piece and everybody talks about what, and I cut through all the bullshit and I go, here's what we need to do. Here's what we can do. Here's how I can do it. And I'll have it back to you next week. And I just eliminated everybody's jobs, and everybody goes, oh, and one guy's going, that's awesome. He's the manager and he's looking at his whole team going, what do I need you guys for? And then I don't have any friends in the room except for the one guy that is going to get the thing done real quickly. And I brought you with me, and I said, I was doing very well, but I wanted to do better. Right. And I brought you with, and I said, I want you to watch me and how I behave. And you came in and you said, you're insulting everybody. And talk about the hardest thing I'd ever had to hear in my life, practically. I thought, I'm helping everybody and they're fortunate that I'm there. And, so a little background, right?
Yeah.
I come from a family of entrepreneurs. My grandfather, my uncle, my dad's brother, my dad, me, my son, my cousin, all same last name, all had businesses in relative fields, right? My dad, me, and my son all in machining, my cousin in machining. And so my dad was in the trade as a tool maker for 55 years. I've been in the trade for 35 years. I've been everywhere in the trade. I've been in automotive. I've been in medical. I've been in aerospace. I've been in military. I've been in all R&D in all those areas. I've been in food service products production, mechanistic, mechanical automation for food production. I've been in microfluidics. I've been in superconductors. I've been in microelectronics. I've been in all these areas. And so when you have such a diverse breadth of background, and you were raised by somebody like my father, who essentially, helped, well, everybody has a computer in their house because of my dad. And, he's not Steve Jobs. He's not those guys, but he's the guy that made it possible for the computers to be built. And people don't know that. That's one of the wonderful things I get to tell people. You have a computer because of my father. And when you've been in that realm, he's worked for Litton, Tonka, Kodak, Honeywell, all over the place. And I got to travel with him since I was little and go to these companies. And I had a little drafting board next to his when we used to hand draw blueprints, prints for making parts and automations. And so you can get really impatient with people that don't understand something, right? And sometimes you want to say, read a book. Sometimes nowadays you want to say, watch a video, get on YouTube and figure it out, because I don't have the time to help you with that, right? Well, if you're in a relationship and if you're investing in me and you over 20 years now, literally 24 years coming up here, being married, it's a literal investment. If you invest in something, you put some of your hard-earned money into it. And I'm glad there's all these relationship programs, because podcasts, people talking about relationships, because it's going to sort out the wheat from the chaff, right? It's going to help somebody that grew up in a home that had a bad life because their parents were bad people or just neglectful or whatever. And it's going to show people that there are alternatives. But the way the algorithms work, it becomes what they call an echo chamber, right? The red pill, the manosphere, all this stuff. And young guys are learning from guys how to be tough with a woman.
Yeah.
And it needs to be the opposite. You need to be gentle with a woman. You need to be understanding with a woman. You need to be practical. And you need to say things that speak to the feminine psyche. The feminine psyche is not just a watered down male psyche. It's not just a human being without testosterone. That's why she became a woman. Actually, women and men have same amount of testosterone. Sometimes women have more, men just have less estrogen, right? So yeah, that's my scientific take. Scientist John, I'm right. I know, I've been there. No, but it's not that simple. A woman is a woman because she is a complement to a man. A man is a man because he is a complement to a woman. And that's the yin and yang. And that's the balance in life. And when you can find that and you can work with it, I can have ecstasy without even having sex with you, because I am in a relationship that is cohesive and solid and wonderful and balanced. And if we get out of balance, we both feel it immediately, don't we? And then we talk about it. And
we feel it, and if you recognize it, then we talk about it right away. That's when we're just getting out of reaction. That's why it's not good to just be in reactionary mode, being aware of actually how you're feeling.
Yeah.
John, you saying you're in touch with your feelings?
That's about how long it takes to get to a guy's feelings. Yes. Yes. No, I'm not in touch with my feelings. The feelings that men are in touch with are more instinctual, are reactionary, right? So if I see you and I think you look sexy, my feeling of love and wanting to mate with you is right on the top surface, right?
That's immediate.
It's very high, right?
Yeah.
If somebody says something mean to me, I have the feeling of anger, borderlining rage, and it's right at the top. It's instinctual.
So yeah, your instincts are quick. Is what I hear you
Yeah,
say.
I mean, a guy, honestly, I don't have feelings until something happens. I don't walk around sullen. I don't walk around in fear. Most guys, I don't walk around sad. Most guys don't ruminate over their feelings. If I know I'm going to go somewhere and I'm going to see somebody that I don't like, I'll have what probably could be considered anxiety, but then I'll be like, what am I going to do to this MF, or how am I going to say this? How am I going to mess with his brain? That kind of thing, right? As a guy, you automatically go into, if I have to go there, I'm going into fight mode. I could go into, my grandfather told me, what? My grandfather told me, make friends with your enemies, right?
Okay.
And I'm like, why? And he's like, you'll understand later in life. And I'm 54 now and I'm starting to get it. Right. So, okay, go ahead.
Okay. Now you are, despite how you may appear and what you just said about not being quick to your feelings or quick to your instincts, you are a very loving, caring, and I would say emotional on a deep level guy.
Thank you for qualifying that for the internet.
Yes, I have to. Because
I don't care what anybody thinks.
It's fine.
Yeah.
So that's important, because I do feel that you're actually qualified to talk about these things. And this is part of my motivation, is I do think that it's imperative that guys actually hear from a guy who's been successfully married for 20 some years and his thought process, not just how to be a man, quote unquote, be a man and,
make your woman do what you want her to do.
Right. So how did you learn women think, like how.
Oh my
I'm not
gosh, I'm
saying.
not-
I mean, you're
I
pretty
don't-
good.
No, I don't
You're
know.
not.
I
You don't think that you know. So we were watching
No,
a video.
it's every time, even with you. 24 years of marriage.
Yeah.
Every discussion, I have to be on my toes. Everyone is fresh. Reactions are not, they're similar, but not the same. It depends on what you've been going through. Now, you know me as the most consistent person you've ever known, right?
Yes.
Good
Did I get the right answer?
Good answer. Yeah.
The remote works.
No, but really,
Yeah.
you've said that before.
Mhm.
And that's because I am consistent. Most guys are consistent. And I have to be consistent because almost everybody I know is not consistent.
I
So
have consistencies.
I have consistencies.
I wake up, I go to sleep,
I'm
I
consistently
eat,
inconsistent.
I take a shower. I don't know.
Yeah,
Mhm.
there's things like that.
Yeah.
So well, if you have a discussion with me about and you can hear it in the beginning of the podcast when you're like, well, I think she's saying this, and I think there's some of this, and I go, no, she said this, and
Mhm.
she didn't have any context with it.
Mhm.
She gave a concept with no context, and you're like, well, she probably meant this, and I'm like, no, it's what she said, and that's it, because that's all we can go on. That's why they are messing with language so much, because if we lose the ability to communicate verbally, what's next? Physical control,
Mhm.
right? Then if somebody does not, what happens when a police officer is trying to arrest somebody and they don't want to be arrested? They have to go to physical control tactics. So they have tasers, they have batons, they have physical control tactics with their physical body, and then the extreme is they carry a lethal weapon called a gun, right? And so there's a range of escalation. Now, I train with cops, and I've trained with those levels of escalation. We've trained the grappling, the leverages, the takedowns, the bars, the wrenches, the things like that, how to cuff, how to do that kind of stuff. But there's this whole range of escalation, right?
Mhm.
And if we could take that and show people in the world and show them that this is where we're at in society.
Yeah,
right?
we're at the brink.
We're off compliance, and
Yeah.
we're off discussion,
Mhm.
and we're into taser and baton range.
Well, also because they're disassembling the language to say, no, this means that now. And so there are people who are confused.
It's worse than that.
Yeah.
They're disassembling the understanding of life, saying that nothing means anything. It's based on what you think.
Yeah.
So life is based on what you think, not based on a set standard of principles or static information through common sense, looking at reality, or through scientific study or that type of thing. So yeah.
So the answer is you don't know women speak, women
Nope.
think, and you're just on your toes. And
Yep.
so then how do you,
That's why it's fun, actually.
oh, okay, good.
Yeah.
So you like it.
Remember when we were out with your grandma the other night and you said, I'm sorry that I was so argumentative we were talking about religion and stuff. And I said, I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I had nothing to be sorry about. I enjoy a good discussion and sometimes even an argument.
But I would say, in the from 1 to 10, there are women that are just highly, highly irrational and just like,
Yeah. 0
Not-
to 10 in a second. Yeah.
but just the scale, like 10 is like so irrational. You could barely speak 2 sentences with them. It's just like, women are just like, I'm opting out, and for me, I'm trying, like I try to like see, to be reasonable. Let's just say that.
You're very reasonable.
And so it's, there are times, it was funny the other day because we were watching a video and I don't remember which one it was, but you're like, this is classic women think, this is a classic how women justify, it was a Deloney podcast show.
Yeah.
And the woman was like, yeah, I just hooked up with my roommate and now he's ignoring me. And I don't understand what's going on. And he's like, well, you just okayed everything, and then you're saying, you say you don't want a relationship, but you're like upset that he's bringing girls back to his apartment. And
She was a hookup.
right. And so you're like, this is a classic example of a woman just like, justifying everything. How would you describe that? Because you said women think, and I'm like, and then I started saying,
here's how
this was the funny part though.
Okay.
I said, but I don't do that. And just at the same time, you're like, you do that all the time. And I'm like, what? So help us women understand, what is women think? Like, what was that scenario in particular?
Okay. Here's an
Please.
example from the beginning of our relationship. We did this on the last podcast, and you said that I invited myself to salsa dancing, but I didn't. I did surreptitiously invite myself to salsa dancing. That's what you're speaking to.
Yes.
So you came in, and you were done, or you were leaving class. I think you were.
Yeah, I was
Yeah,
leaving
and you
class,
were like,
but I had to go home and get dressed. And
you were like, I was like, see ya, saying bye to everybody, and you kind of were lingering a little bit, and you were like, oh yeah, I'm taking off. Me and Alicia are going salsa dancing tonight, and I'm like, oh, I love salsa. I meant on chips.
Yeah, right.
And you were like, you salsa dance? And I was like, of course I do. I'm Juan Suave, the salsa dancer. I was like, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And you were like, oh my goodness, you should come with us. And I was like, yeah, I should. And that was at the point, at that point I realized that I liked you, and I'm pretty sure you liked me, or you wouldn't have invited me along, right? Because you weren't going out with anybody, that I couldn't set you up with anybody. Yeah. And so we went salsa dancing, and we had a good time, and it was great. Dancing's fun. It's awesome,
Mm-hmm.
And so at the end of the night, I was looking at you, and I said, I would really like to kiss you. And you said, you were like, oh, I can't.
So depressed.
I have a boyfriend. And I was shocked. I was like, what? You're
shocked that I had a boyfriend, or shocked that I turned you down?
I was devastated that you turned me down. Okay. We'll talk about that in a minute.
Okay.
So I was shocked you had a boyfriend because you were working 2 jobs, and you were coming to class almost every night.
You're like,
and so
she has a paper mache boyfriend.
Yeah. I was like, where is this guy? I've never met him, and you never said anything. And so I found out that you had been a foreign exchange student in Brazil, and you had a boyfriend in Brazil, and you hadn't seen him for, I don't know, 9 months to a year, or 3 years or whatever. And so you told me that. You said, well, technically I still have a boyfriend in Brazil, and you told me I haven't seen him, we talk on the phone every now and then, but, and I was like, okay, and I was like, holy shit, she turned me down. I was like, wow, and I wasn't used to that. And it intrigued me so deeply that I had already was deciding that I liked you. And
where were you deciding that? Like, where did that happen?
Well, it was happening in my heart at that point.
Oh.
Okay. So it was it was in my headspace at first, because we were interacting. You would hand out flyers for the school. I gave you a discount on classes for that. And then you started teaching me Spanish, because I found out you spoke other languages. And so you were my Spanish teacher. So we were kind of equals in the sense that we were teaching each other things, and I was your martial arts instructor. And I was like, we're spending an awful lot of time talking. And then now we just went salsa dancing, and you had said hi to a few people that you knew at the salsa arena, or at the salsa factory,
at the club.
And you had said, but you didn't spend any time with anybody except me. And so I was observing, right, that was part of the situation. And okay, she's paying attention to me. And I'm not a hookup kind of guy. I'm not a club goer. I've never picked up a chick from the health club or a bar or anything like that. And so, that I noticed that I thought, oh, she's like me. She's not like this,
I'm not a hookup person.
Yeah. You're not all over all these other guys, and, guys weren't coming up to you going, oh, Dada, whoa, it's blah, 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 and that's Portuguese.
Yeah.
And so Well, if you hear it from a distance, it sounds like that. So I was like, hey, okay, and yeah, it was happening. It happened in my head first because I noticed your work ethic and I really appreciated it. And then it happened in my heart. And then, yeah, it went to my loins at some point,
So how was that learning or knowing women speak?
It
Women
wasn't
think.
nothing.
Well, you brought up
No.
that example to answer the question.
No, I didn't.
So we learned John think.
I wasn't going to
In that
answer any
example.
question that I know anything about women.
Oh, okay.
No, it's women are an adventure for men. I can agree with Sadia when she says men go for women that challenge them. Okay. And do you really want a woman that's a challenge? Yeah. Technically, no. The challenge should be trying to figure out the relationship, but guys are adventurous and there are very few adventures in life. Everybody knows pretty much anything. You can go skydiving, you can go bungee jumping, you can go spelunking in caves, you can go be on Shark Week, you can get in a cage with sharks, you can go shark diving, free diving with shark. There's not really, unless you're going to be a professional, there's not a lot of real adventures left on the planet per se, right? But I think guys do look for adventure. Guys do. If there was a rocket to the moon or Mars, there'd be a lot of guys that want to go, to have an adventure. So I think, to be honest, I think women are a little bit more, they're adjusted differently nowadays than they used to be. And even from when I was in high school, being 54 years old now, the women were they were still gatekeepers. You weren't sleeping with each other on the first date or the first month or the first 6 months, it was a different time. There wasn't hookup culture. And, maybe there was in California or New York, the progressive states, but there wasn't in Minnesota. And nowadays, I hear the young men talk and boy, do I feel sorry for them. Young guys have, cause I'm an employer, young guys have talked to me about women and they've shown me texts they're getting in the middle of the day. And boy, you had to fight to get a phone call, when I first started working. If you got a phone call, if you got 2 phone calls in a week, they would come and tell you, we're not taking any more calls from anybody. You're here to work. You're not taking a phone call.
It used to be serious. Like if you
Very
got a
serious.
phone call, yeah,
Very
you're like
serious.
gulp as you're walking to the phone.
Yeah. And now people are on their phone all day long and they're talking with 3 or 4 people. They're having arguments and fights with their significant other. And I've had to actually have a couple policies over the years of telling guys, because you had 1 or 2 guys that were just abusing the privilege of being on their phone while they're working. And I would have to say, phones in the basket, you can grab them at lunch, you can grab them on break.
And that's sad,
It's
you have
terrible.
to do that with adults.
Yeah.
Even as you were setting up machines before we started this podcast, I was going to text you about what happened with the cat. And I was like, I don't need to text him that I can tell him when he gets up here in 10 minutes, but it's such a habit to be like, oh my gosh, this happened. Or did you know this? Or look at this.
Mm-hmm.
You do really need to think about, what's going on in the other person's life.
Mhm.
Especially as a couple. It's like, because that distraction could have meant thousands of dollars of mistake if it distracted you just enough.
Right. And you do want to have something to talk about when you come home.
Yeah, there's that. There's that.
Yeah.
Hence why I saved all the shorts as the surprises today. Do you want to end with
I don't want any,
no one that you choose?
Are we ending?
We don't have to, but you did put in this request. So
I guess we are kind of steaming down a bit, aren't we?
well, we can end with, you can choose a video here just because you requested
That
it.
might lead to a lot.
It might.
All right, let's put Rich on our podcast. Hey, Rich.
I'll have you turn one or choose one. That's what I meant to say.
Eeny,
Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Eeny, meeny, miny,
let's go
mo.
to successful. Do successful.
Successful. Just the first one, right?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
If you're a woman dating a very high value guy, he's successful, he has money, he's funny, he's confident, influential, he chooses to be monogamous with you, you should be grateful. If you're a woman dating a very high value
That's Is it? Could you hear him over his car? No.
Well, it gets clicks, right?
Yeah.
Let me see.
Apparently.
How many views has that one got? I'll go to that window so I can see it. 160. You have to go to the previous page.
Okay. It's gonna play the other one.
No, it won't.
Oh.
Go down there.
1.2
1.2.
thousand.
Yeah, well, that one's probably went up today.
Probably a newer one, yeah.
because he's got 12 and 24 and 37,000 views. That's kind of a good strategy, just putting the single word there.
Yeah, I like to see what that is good.
It's interesting. Tara, you should be grateful.
Well, we're not dating, John. We're married.
Oh, I suppose.
Yeah.
Dang it.
I already got ya.
I
You're
gave her-
hooked.
Gave her 50% already. Yeah, I don't think shouting that out loud is very proper. I think
some of these videos are to just stroke the egos of the guys and make them feel good for watching the channel. Not actually, there's a good strategy, Rich. Not ripping on you, but
well, it's clickbait then, and man, I struggle with clickbait, right? You know, you get caught in clickbait every now and then, and you're going, "What the heck am I watching?" You know, because a couple of words or a phrase, you know, and it's like, and that's what shorts are. Shorts are clickbait, right? Because they're short.
I think we need to pick another one.
But then no, I want to talk about this.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Sorry. All right.
be consistent, Tara.
I'm trying. I'm really trying.
So it's okay that we're slow and we're not on point all the time, but I have a problem with, and I've done it. I've said, no, that's not it. This is it. But I'm sitting with you and you can respond and you can say things and we can have a discussion. I just don't think it's right to yell at the other sex, you know, you need to do this. I think people need to find ways of qualifying the people that they're with. And if a guy is picking up a woman because she's hot, then if that's what you're picking her up for, that's what she's there for. And if you're expecting a hot woman to be cultured and classy and demure and proper, and, you know, it's not always going to happen. It's not always going to be there. Mm-hmm. And, you know, if she thinks she's not there for the long run, then how is she going to be grateful? How is she going to be happy? How is she going to be calm?
They're asking for things that would be expected in a long-term relationship, in a marriage, in dating. Here's something that's interesting. I love going to these really old, historic, amazing places. So one of my favorites locally
I try to take her to places without plaques because she's a plaque reader.
Yeah, but there's lots of plaques here.
Oh.
He's like, I'll just drop you off. So the James J. Hill House in St. Paul is, you know, during the era of the steel production, the Industrial Revolution era. And so this house had the latest technology of its time, turn of the century, early.
Not only indoor plumbing, but hot water indoor. They had gas lamps all over the house with live pressurized gas. You just turn it on and it would light.
And electric. They had
gas.
Yep. There were chandeliers. They were gas going upwards, and then the ones facing downwards were electric.
Because they didn't electricity wasn't as reliable. So it was right at the transition point.
Yes. But each bedroom had its own bathroom suite.
Yeah.
I mean, just absolutely amazing.
Crazy. Yeah.
So,
they had a shower that there was like 100 pipes, and they were all holes that pointed different ways. So when you turned on the shower, you would get hit from all directions all at once.
Back in like the late 1800s, it was just absolutely amazing. And woodwork that's hand carved by
in gold inlaid.
Yeah,
real
there
gold.
was a room, the sitting room, and when they met, so Mr. and Mrs. Hill. Mrs. Hill formerly was a waitress that waited on Mr. Hill. And so they were not of the same class, although he was a working class as well, who came up and apparently met the right people. And, you know, your network is your net worth. There we go. Good example. It tales all the time. Well, he sent her to finishing school before they got married.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, that would be, I think people would see that as an insult these days. Like, you know, a man seeing himself, a successful man, coming up in the world, and he had the foresight to think, okay, she needs to know how to run a household, not only a household, but like an estate.
Well, and she
right?
had servants and she had
Yes, so
gardeners and stable people.
you
and-
need to know how to host certain guests,
Mhm.
very high status guests. You need to understand, especially in that day, he was traveling all the time.
And he was having governors and royalty and people come
Right.
over. And so, yeah, you had to have culture.
Right. So I use that example because it's kind of extreme. That doesn't really happen these days. And even then, that might have been an extreme, for her to be a waitress, working class, and then brought up to that level. And so I agree. What you're saying is that, I guess I said it, summarizing what you were saying, that they're putting expectations on these women as they're dating, as if they're in a long-term committed relationship or married. And I think that's really mixed up. And I think that's really going to mess up your dating experience
Mhm.
as well.
Yeah. And on the other end, you can't allow for anything. You can't just be like, well, we go to a high-end dinner and my wife likes to use a spork from KFC. So,
That's just my favorite.
Yeah, you can't, you got to be somewhere in the middle, and you need to try and be a balanced human as much as you can be, and continually learning. We call it the daily decrease, right? Getting rid of things on a daily basis that you don't need. It's like spring cleaning. It's like getting the clutter out of your garage. It's like cleaning out your car. You can't just throw all your garbage all over your car all the time. I mean, if you're
No.
driving your spouse's car, you can do that. I do that. I do clean it out too. I did take it to the car wash the other day and vacuum it too.
Yeah, I appreciate that
Yeah.
a lot. Yes.
And I check the oil and keep the tires topped off, and I choose the tires, and
Yeah, they're excellent.
I look at the brakes
Perfect.
and I listen for any problems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just be grateful, John. It comes back all to gratitude.
Look in the
That
mirror,
was
Tara. Look
that
in the
was
mirror.
okay. So one more point before we end here. So that I know Rich doesn't necessarily identify with the red pill community anymore, because he says that they're kind of going off the rails and doesn't, I don't know what he's calling himself now. But what I noticed in particular, what's her name does it too, Pearl. There are a lot of people in this realm of like coaching, in relationships, that are just hammering on women, and
not in relationships.
not in relationships.
I got a
but-
little bit of a problem with that.
And
It's kind of like asking your tennis pro to come over and look at your plumbing.
yeah, or not the tennis pro. They're not even a pro.
And I
right?
didn't mean that as a sexual joke. Like if a woman was at the club and she was wanting to go out with the tennis pro and she said, "Do you want to check out my plumbing?" That's not what I meant. I meant you call a plumber to fix your plumbing in your house.
Yeah. And generally women aren't going to take well to, just being yelled and chided. No one does, right? And so what I hope that
I guarantee you these guys that are barking online are not saying that to a woman's face. I guarantee you. And if they are, they don't have a good relationship.
no one likes to be treated that way,
No.
right? So don't yell at your women. Don't play pranks on your women. I think
Is that where we're just saying stuff? Be grateful for your man.
Well, I think this is lost in our culture, and unfortunately, I'm going to hammer on feminism though, is that and I think there are clearly different eras of feminism. To me, there are clear different eras of feminism, and what was meant to, as far as getting equality for women, went too far in the sense of women starting to bark at men, saying, like, don't do that. I don't need you to hold the door open for me. I don't need you to be extra polite to me because I'm
I don't think
a
we should
woman.
get into this conversation unless it's how it affected you. Because there is Margaret Sanger, who was one of the largest proponents of feminism, came and apologized and said that she was working with the CIA and they were telling her what to say. So with that said, I don't think we can talk about feminism as a general thing that was supposed to help women in society. I think we need to talk about what you personally think about it and how it affected you in being raised by a woman who said she was a feminist and told you not to trust men, because that's how it affected you in your life. And instead of the general blanket statement about all women, Tara, right, or all men, and I'll make blanket statements every now and then, but I break it down
You're the
to
king of blanket.
no, I break it down to specifics and about myself, right?
Well, I'm going to attempt that. Okay. So I'm going to attempt doing that, because what has happened is, to bring it back around, is you have women and men chiding women to behave better, in a certain way, and like be this way. And so I don't know how to.
Here's what's going on. Women are being used.
I'm
right
more
now.
so trying to point out something that I see. I don't know how to bring it back around to. I mean, I can certainly point out things that I've experienced,
Look
I think, due
look
to
at-
that teaching.
Look, okay, let's start here. Look at society and look at what feminism is, how feminism is being used right now, and who is it using? And I'll just say it for you. It's using women. Women are being used right now as political pawns, and just like different races will be used, different situations will be used, and it's a bunch of control mechanisms. And when this group meets this concept that is needed to be manipulated, controlled, pushed in a direction, that button is hit. And that's why the conversations are so heavy and it's pop topic, right? So the people you talked about, Pearl and Rich and Andrew Tate and all these other people, they're just capitalizing on the pop culture, and they're actually making it worse, because what we need is real life situations being talked about, real life experiences. A real life marriage that has been going on for 24 years has had ups and downs, we've been literally wealthy and literally broke. This is why we started talking with each other about our life in the morning, and we turned it into a podcast.
Okay, I can bring up an example.
Okay.
Now, and this will be a good ending point too. It is actually how our last podcast ended. And it was beautiful how you said that, when you've had to bring up a difficult topic with me, you've said, I love you, I want to be with you, but this is not something that I can tolerate, whatever the situation, fill
Yep.
in the blanks.
Yep.
And this is what I was getting at, is like, no one likes to be yelled at or chided, but especially women. I know that for men, or I've heard that for men, a certain amount of cajoling or outright teasing and shaming and does work. But for the most part, and I'm just going to speak for women, you taking that approach with me shows me that you love me, shows me tenderness and kindness, and you're treating me how you want to experience me. So what I mean is, you like the more feminine nature of me. I mean, yeah, you like it when I train martial arts with you or go out mountain biking, but we might be like more masculine activities. But I think by and large, you like my more feminine characteristics. You like it when I'm, how are you doing? We sit down for a movie and I rub your feet and, I ask you, are you hungry? I'm making some food, or I'm not making food, but I know the last time you ate. So I'm asking if you're hungry. I'm at the store. I'm asking you, is there something you want me to pick up for you? And so because what I see in your behavior, because of that, you want me to continue to be like that. And so you treat me in a way that helps continue that feminine nature. If you're teasing me all the time, if you're telling me what to do, if you're like barking at me, that naturally in a person, we saw it in the first video I showed, that man played a prank on his wife and she punched him.
Yeah.
And your first reactions say a lot.
It scared her, and then she realized it was a joke, and then she got mad, and then she used violence.
And so I think that's
women
a great,
are dangerous.
But that's the example that I wanted to make, is that this is why we are doing it.
I
the way
don't
we're
treat you
doing
a
it.
specific way.
And I want you to be heard, because I think your example of being a strong man, but also being tender and kind, needs to be seen.
Well, I don't treat you a certain way because I want you to do things for me. I'm married to you. I love you. I care about you. I'm going to treat you wonderfully no matter what. And if I wasn't going to be with you, I wouldn't be with you. And if I am going to be with you, I'm going to treat you wonderfully, because I'm a wonderful person. And people need to say that to themselves, right? They need to look in the mirror. They need to tell themselves that they love themselves. They need to say, I'm a wonderful person. They need to, manifesting, people talk a lot about that nowadays, right? It starts right here. Your joy has to come from within. Your will comes from within. Your drive comes from within. Your care comes from within. And it's not because of what you get. And what's happening is they're shifting it, right? It's, I'm not going to talk very religious, but I will say that it's not deeds, it's faith, right? And so, deeds are important. And if you have faith, you'll perform deeds, right? If you have love, you'll show care. And so I do things for you because I love you. And I do everything you said, I do. I call you from the grocery store. Do you want anything? I'm making food. I ask you, do you want some food? I don't particularly always rub your feet. I like to rub other things, but.
Or you're like, you need food, here's some food.
I do. Because, I'm a guy. I know that my wife can get hangry, so I don't want that to happen. Right. And then if all of a sudden I'm feeling frisky and you're hungry, so. So anyway, that should probably be the end for now. Yeah, we had a light go out here, so.
Yeah, that's one of the things that was making noise. That makes
Well,
sense.
it was flickering a bit.
Ooh,
Burnt out.
our energy was too much for it.
Oh, energy co.
Mhm. All right, so
All right.
I still have a list
Subscribe
of things for next time.
Subscribe and share.
And share,
I don't care if you
definitely.
like it. Subscribe and share. Somebody will like it somewhere. All 70. Thank you to all 70 of our subscribers. Woo! It only took 100 plus podcasts to
Yeah.
get 70.
Well, we had to do a few other things. Yeah. All right. Have a good one. Give it a kiss.
Whoa.
Coming in hot. Ugh. All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye. You got to end it. End